Saddle up your horses.
What's going on, everybody? It is another episode of the Mainly Broncos podcast, and if you did not tune into the 5280 podcast this current week, you will have found out that the sickness that I have, I have a sickness that I've been trying to recover from. I am definitely been getting better, and I am expecting a full recovery. Thank you guys to everybody that's been hopping, and make sure you hit the subscribe button for the MHRT Network page over there on YouTube, as well as the Mainly Broncos YouTube page. Also follow the boys. That would be Jordan at Jordan T. Lopez, whose internet is up and running. Hallelujah. The internet is working for Mr. Florida Boy, as well as I am going to go dip and grab some water, and I'm going to have it take about 15 minutes, a little bit longer than it normally does. Brandon at Brandon Miller PO. He told me it was just water, gents.
Yeah.
He told me it was just water. First things first, Jordan, how are you? Your internet is fantastic.
I'm actually right now on my phone checking that the speeds are up. I don't want the same thing to happen like last time. It looks like we're good to go. Yeah, if it starts going bad now, it's going to be your fault.
Oh, it's going to be my fault?
Yeah, because you keep bringing it up, and I'm going to react to it. But I think we're good. My internet speeds look like they're good.
You got to do something other than the phone hotspot, man.
No, I'm not. It's my actual
Phone
Wi-Fi.
26.
Yeah, it was something weird because like he uses fiber optics, like a fiber optic cable, and
Does he?
like of all things, it was wonky the episode when Mike Carmelini was in here. So
Someone just decided to open up my door and
say hi.
yeah.
So Cash, that is Jordan's dog, making a guest appearance over here at the very beginning of the show. So we're going to lead things off, of course, with the main course of the discussion, because, you know, the other topic, of course, that we're going to be talking about is maybe we should do a poll question, maybe kind of post it on all of our Twitter handles, get the exposure that we came. But where does the 2025 and maybe that's not really a poll question, but where does the 2025 Denver Broncos team rank among some of the best teams in Broncos history? So we're going to kind of talk about that. Obviously, the creme de la creme are those teams that win the Super Bowl, so it's not going to replace those teams. But I think that there's a question, of course, of like where it could rank as far as all time. So I think that could be a fun conversation. So for people in the chat, feel free to interact with us, comment in the chat. We'll get your guys' comments up and running as much as we can. Again, as we said, follow the boys. Follow Jordan at Jordan T. Lopez. Follow Brandon at Brandon Miller PO. Follow myself at Cameron Parker PO. And, of course, subscribe to the MHRT Network page over there at YouTube. We currently sit at 1.7 subscribers. And the Mainly Broncos YouTube page as well. So let's dive into it. Player expectations. Let's save the big one everybody's been wanting to probably talk about, which is the most important position in all of sports, and that would be the quarterback position. So I figure we might as well just save that one for last. Let's start first with one and just kind of keep it simple. Obviously, we're not saying that the offensive guard of Quinn Miners is going to average about 15 pancakes in a regular season. I'm not asking for that. But offensive line expectations. What are your guys' offensive line expectations for this team? We'll start in the trenches and work outside. So, Brandon, let's start with you on that one. Let's go trenches and then just kind of work our way on the outside.
That's an interesting one. I feel like, to me, the number one storyline to follow just in general in the trenches is going to be the center position and just kind of what ends up happening there. And then everything else kind of expands from that, because it is going to be interesting to see, are they going to improve on last year in terms of both pass blocking and run blocking? Because one of the things that I think has been overblown, I guess, is how quote-unquote elite the offensive line was last year, specifically in pass blocking. Like run blocking, they were not that good, and also the running backs were not that good either, but we'll talk about that later. But specifically in like pass blocking, it was like, oh, well, Bo Nix is doing so well because he has like this elite line in front of him and they're not letting him take a sack. And I just don't think that that's true. I think they were good, but I think that Bo did a fantastic job of avoiding sacks and avoiding negative plays, almost to his detriment, because there were times where he would immediately take off and run when he didn't need to. See the play where he broke his ankle. But I do hope that another season in this offense together, and more understanding of Bo and his tendencies like as a runner, just sees them improve more there. But I do think like in general, I think it's a good offensive line, but I don't think it is as elite as everyone is saying. And I also think that if we're able to get improvement at center, depending on who that ends up being, I think that's going to make a big difference. Like, is it going to be Wattenberg again? Is it not? I don't know.
It should be Wattenberg based on his contract.
Yeah, it should be. But I also think that, I don't know. I mean, like, obviously they believe them enough to pay him, but I do think that Forsyth is interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. But that, to me, that's the expectation, is that it will improve, and it's really going to come down to the center position for me.
And I know I'm kind of starting off with, I should say it's not really a softball question, because the offensive line stuff is kind of a hot button issue a little bit at times with people in Broncos Twitter. And we're not. I think the thing for Jordan and for Brandon is they aren't really saying that the offensive line is garbage or trash or anything like that. It's a relatively elite offensive line still, right? Like it, but it's just there's areas where I think people kind of take it to where they think that it's because of this, that makes Bo, elite and everything. So Jordan, I kind of paraphrased it a little bit, much like to what Brandon was talking about, but you kind of have the same feeling a little bit as far as the offensive line is concerned.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I know everyone in the social media world and just every analyst as well believe that the Broncos offensive line is elite, and I'm not saying that they're bad, but I wouldn't tout them as elite because we have seen them without.
Well, what's your definition? What's your definition of elite? That's the question, because I still would probably tout them as a top 7 unit, which is very good.
Yes, I think so too. I would put them around top, for sure, top 10. If you're elite, I think you're top 5, and I think a lot of people think they're top 5. I mean, I've seen people say that they're the best offensive line in the league just because of Bo and his sack numbers and all that. But what people don't realize, it's Bo, skews that number all the way down himself, and it's not really, the offensive line. I'm not trying to take any credit from the offensive line, but we have seen them with Jarrett Stidham behind center and how different it looks with him, and then also in general, in just terms of the run game, which is what I want to get into. My expectations going into this season is the running game has to be a lot better, and it starts up front. Now we have the running backs in the room to make it happen. I believe in J.K. Dobbins, believe in Harvey. I believe in Jonah Coleman, even though he's going to be a rookie. I think he's going to be a stud. We have the guys. Now it's the guys up front to make it what it is and what this running game is supposed to be. And it shouldn't be an inconsistent running game. It should be a consistent running game and a dominant one, not just every other game they're good, because we need them consistently each week.
Yeah. Ivy, we do shout outs, like we'll shout out you, but I think the other thing, and maybe I misinterpreting, we do super chats. We don't see it very often, We don't necessarily push for them because it's all up to the person doing the super chat, as far as whether or not they feel comfortable doing a super chat. So I don't know if that's what you mean, but we do super chat. Also, Victor Lap, I saw you came back from the casino, and you made even. So congrats, buddy. That is always a good thing. You definitely don't want to lose it all. You definitely don't want to lose it all. You know, again, I agree with you guys because it's like it's never really a point of like that we're really kind of hating on. It's just the level of growth that we could be able to see week in and week out, or even season by season with this offensive unit. So I think that still having a top 10 unit is something that's, really, really dang good. And then when you kind of factor on a little bit more consistency in the running game, and maybe that for me is the area where I could probably see a little bit more offensive line growth. Just because, like when you think of certain times where, and I think obviously there's probably a fair amount of argument when it comes to the running back sometimes in creating holes and creating lanes for themselves. Like if there's a hole that seems to have already been there, but yet the runner kind of evades a little bit and goes to another hole, that's not necessarily an offensive line problem. That's a running back problem because, but I think that there's probably lanes that maybe they can open up a little bit more when it comes to the running game. And that's, I think, where it can really fall in line with the offensive line. And obviously this is I don't want to say it's a change in philosophy, but we are seeing Zach Streif still be an offensive line coach, also a run game coordinator. He's going to have a little bit of some different responsibilities. He'll still be associated a lot with this offensive line, but I think it's going to be very interesting to see how well this offensive line group can continue to get better. Because I think that the one thing, and I think it was Davis Webb even said it, that Luke Wattenberg, for as much crap as he does get, he is one of the smartest offensive centers that's in the NFL. Like he is a very smart center. And, if you're going to be taking that job, Alex Forsythe and everything else, that's probably the first order of business for you to take that job is you have to be smarter or as smart than Luke Wattenberg, because you're going to be knowing those productions. You're going to be knowing all those different blocking assignments. And then if you could be able to hold your own within that, I think you're going to be up for success. And I think the other part of it too that we saw is I think it was Victor Left that brought up the injury point. Now, this is something I think that has been a steady progression upward for this Denver Broncos team, guys, because this is something as far as a debate and as far as a conversation, the last 8 years post-Manning, right? Like we could never find the right tackle, right? Like we could never find the right tackle, much like the quarterback position. But I think that when you look at it from the perspective of the offensive line, the depth had been a major problem. And I think at the course of these last 8 years, or even just under Sean Payton, the depth, I think, is something that has gotten better in the last 3 years. So I think that's the other part of it, too, from the offensive line, like expectations and stuff like that. I really look forward to seeing, maybe some of these other players kind of take form. Even if they're not starting, they're really showing that depth.
No.
Yeah. I actually went and looked up because I was curious. I didn't realize what the center market was. It was being pretty drastically inflated by Tyler Linderbaum. When I originally looked at the average, I was oh, Luke Wattenberg's is like not even, he's like a top 15, 20 paid center. Like the money's not that bad. No, it's actually crazy. Take out Tyler Linderbaum, he's the top 5. He's a top 6 contract. So yeah, there's definitely no question there. But when I originally looked at it, I was like, that's not that bad. No, Tyler Linderbaum isn't just.
He's skyrocketed the market.
Money, but, no, I agree. I do think specifically, I'm really excited to see what they do in the running game because I think J.K. Dobbins if you can control how much you're giving him the ball a little bit more, and you have more to go around, which, like, to the chagrin of every fantasy manager ever this season. But if you can maybe reduce the risk of injury a little bit there, I think Jonah Coleman's going to be fantastic for this team. I think he's going to come in and take meaningful snaps right away. And I'm curious to see what they do with RJ Harvey. I think Harvey did a good job in some areas and did less of a good job in other areas. And that's like when we get into comparing this team to past iterations of the Broncos, like the running game specifically is the biggest thing to point out for me that I noticed and wanted to compare to, because it needs to get better. Like, it has to get better. Bo did a great job getting this team borderline to the Super Bowl. And if he wasn't injured, he takes us to the Super Bowl, but you have to be able to give him some more help from his running backs. And I'm excited to see what they do with Jonah Coleman. And I think that J.K. Dobbins, when he's healthy, is a great back. But, and I hate to bring this up, but he's not healthy the whole season. It's just not going to happen. Like, that's what he's shown. He's proven that. You can't expect it. So you need someone else for the other half of that load, or maybe more. And I think, especially when you get into, making a postseason run, like, Jonah Coleman is going to be a big part of this offense. Yeah. And I'm interested to see what that looks like. But I think the blocking for the running game up front definitely has to improve.
Yeah. And we'll definitely talk a little bit about that wide receiver position, when we get to it, because I know that you also asked about another wide receiver. So we'll talk about the wide receiver room, but I thought it was kind of like imperative, because once you talk about the offensive line and the running game is kind of like all kind of encompassing with that, because there's run blocking and stuff like that. So Jordan, I kind of piggybacking off of Brandon, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm interested in seeing how the left guard spot plays out. I know Ben Powers is the starter, but if Cage Casey has a good enough training camp where he wows the staff and Zach Strief, is there going to be a conversation of what's going to happen to that starting spot? I know when Ben Powers got hurt last year, we saw a significant dip, especially at that spot. And Ben Powers is good, and I'm not, debating that. It's just Cage Casey under a rookie contract. You can probably save a few bucks off of Ben Powers' deal. It's not like Ben Powers is overly dominant. He's just he does his job. He doesn't do anything to hurt you. But that is a interesting, microcosm in this whole thing, is how that's going to play out. Because if Cage Casey can really impress people in training camp, it's for sure worth a conversation.
But we're talking about expectations, though, and so that's. I would kind of advise against the idea of I'm not expecting Cage Casey to come out here and really like force a decision to be made with Ben Powers. But that said, I think it's a very interesting conversation, because obviously we don't draft offensive linemen in dynasty drafts, but if you're talking dynasty of in the sense of forecasting the future, Cage Casey probably would be one of those players you want to be jotting down as far as that's a future starter, specifically when you draft him solely as a guard. So I think that when you look at it from the standpoint of that offensive line, that's probably your biggest question mark contractually. But I think the center position that Brandon and all of us have been kind of talking about has been, from the starting unit perspective, maybe aside from that left guard position, your biggest one.
It's the biggest question mark to me, at least.
Yeah. So then going on with this running game, I think what's so fascinating for me is I like how you talked about divvying up the carries, Brandon, because when you looked at it from the standpoint of carries, I think it's in everybody's best interest to share the workload equally. I mean, I think there's definitely something to be said over the years, and this is not just the Sean Payton thing. This is an every team thing, every coach thing, every running backs coach thing. But this is when you have a hot hand, you feed the hot hand. That's going to happen, I think, at some times where you're going to have a hot hand, and at sometimes you probably will have to ride the hot hand. But due to the nature of this running back room and the nature of the health of everybody in that room, I think they would definitely be advised to share the workload rather equally amongst those three running backs of J.K. Dobbins, Jonah Coleman, R.J. Harvey, because I do think probably at the end of the day, J.K. Dobbins, even though he probably would love a 300 carry season, statistically, I think in a perfect world, and due to his knees and due to his health, he will thank you in the long run for the way that happened.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I do think he's a fantastic running back when he's on the field, but he has to stay on the field, and it just doesn't happen. So I'm glad that they did something there. Like, that was the biggest move to me that needed to be made outside of wide receiver in the offseason. So I'm glad that they invested in that position with a back that I'm really excited to see. With Jonah Coleman, he is so good as a pass blocker and as a pretty underrated as a pass catcher. So that'll be interesting to see what they do with him there. But I think JK is going to have a great year. Like, I do think he is going to be successful, but I just think you have to have, unfortunately, a committee, because you can't really rely on him to be your go-to weapon on the ground. It's just not going to be reliable.
Yeah. So when we talk player expectations, this is the $1 million question. Will we get a 1,000-yard rusher? Jordan?
For me, I don't think we'll get a 1,000-yard rusher, but that doesn't mean it won't be a successful season for those guys in the room, just because I do believe that they will my expectation for them is that they'll solidify themselves as the deepest running back room in terms of a trio in the league, because you have, in my opinion, at least three running backs that can go out there and not necessarily win you a game, but they can impact winning at a high level. I agree with Brandon and a lot of people in Broncos country. I do believe in Jonah Coleman and what he can bring to the team. I know he's a rookie and he's going to have to go through his, ups and downs, which is going to be normal, but I do believe in his skill set. And I know there's been some, at least in my opinion, some weird opinions about Harvey, especially after the year he just had as a rookie, but I still think he's going to be great under Sean Payton and the Broncos. And I'm very, very curious to see how he's going to be utilized with Davis Webb and his play calling. But I still believe in this running back room, and I expect them to do really good.
Corbin Bredonomus says he absolutely thinks we will. So I'm curious, who is that running back? I think we would all agree it's probably in between probably the lion's share of R.J. Harvey or J.K. Dobbins, but I'm really curious to see who he thinks. But, yeah, Brandon, go ahead.
I don't think we're going to have a 1,000-yard rusher just because we're going to split the workload to the point that we might have 3 700-yard rushers, 600-yard rushers.
Right.
But I don't think you're going to see any one guy get to that level. And now I do think we could have a double-digit touchdown guy. Who that is, I don't know. We'll see. But I don't think a 1,000-yard rusher is in the cards. Maybe 1,000 total yards. I guess I could see 1,000 total yards somewhere, but even then, I'm hesitant.
I agree with you. We'll have a double-digit running back with touchdowns, but we will not have a 1,000-yard running back. I will say this, though. The running back, I think, to have 10-plus touchdowns, I think is going to surprise a lot of people.
I think it's going to be Jonah Coleman.
I don't think it's going to be Jonah Coleman.
I do.
I think it's going to be R.J. Harvey.
That's surprising. The guy that got 12 touchdowns last year is the surprising one to get double-digit touchdowns.
Because the way that I'm phrasing this is because one of the reasons why I think that the Broncos aren't going to have a 1,000-yard rusher is because of the extension of the running game, which is the passing game. And I think that there's no better weapon for you that's a running back out of the backfield who's frankly rather elite as a pass catcher and out of the backfield than RJ Harvey for you, that I think there's a very real chance that you're looking at about 1,200 to 1,300. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm just saying that, like, there's a very real chance that RJ Harvey has about 1,200 to 1,300, like, scrimmage yards, receiving yards. Scrimmage yards, which is like receiving yards and rushing yards. And I think with that, he probably can do another 10-plus touchdown season.
Okay. I mean, it to me, it wouldn't be surprising, but I just think Jonah Coleman is going to surprise people. Like, he is actually so good out of the backfield as a weapon. I think he could easily be the guy that gets double-digit touchdowns. Personally, to me, like, I think he's also going to give you more long runs than you got from RJ Harvey. I think RJ Harvey is going to be the goal line guy. But I don't know, man. I just really like Jonah Coleman. I think he could do a great job. I'm not saying he's going to come in here and just like completely usurp RJ Harvey in RJ Harvey's only sophomore campaign. But I just think Jonah Coleman, if you put the ball in his hands, like, he's going to show you that you need to put the ball in his hands more. He's going to get touchdowns. He's going to get 10-plus yard runs, and he's going to catch the ball and take it 12 yards. And you're going to be like, what? How did he not get tackled? I don't know. I think he's a really good running back. So I think it could be Jonah Coleman. But the fact that it could be any one of them does have me excited for what the running game could look like this year, because I think if you get more consistency there, and just take a little bit more off of Bo Nix's plate. And obviously you introduce what you're introducing in the passing game. Like, this could be the top 5 offense. I'm going to say it.
Okay.
5. I almost said 6. I almost said 6 because I'm like, maybe there might be on the edge. They might be on the edge of 5. So we'll say 6, top 6 offense. But I think it's going to be something, because, like, everyone hears that and they're going to be like, well, where are the Chiefs? The Chiefs haven't been a top 5 offense in years. They're kind of weird. I don't know. I mean, the Ravens, what does the health look like for Lamar Jackson? I don't know. But other than that, it's the Bills, and you got the Bengals, and I guess the Chargers if they're healthy. And then who else is up there? Like, those are kind of like, I know you talk about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, whatever. But I don't know. I think when you look at the top 5 offenses, I don't think the Chiefs are in that list. Who are they even throwing the ball to? The husk of Travis Kelce? Because Rashee Rice is going to be probably not on the field, or they need to figure that situation out. Maybe they need to cut him. I don't know. He has problems that he needs to figure out off the field. But I don't know. I don't think it's that far-fetched. I will amend it to say 6 because I do think there may be fringe. They're fringe top 5, but I don't think that's that crazy.
So I have to ask this because this feels like the low-hanging fruit of something that's gonna happen, but it also goes to show you of how bad the running game was and how excited we are for Jonah Coleman, and probably one of the reasons why we're not gonna have a 1,000-yard rusher probably in our A's. But Tyler Bidet is largely the role that is getting compared for Jonah Coleman and the role that he had. He had 141 yards rushing last year.
Way more. Bump those numbers up.
I think that there's probably a case to be made that Jonah Coleman is having about 400, maybe 500 more than that, as far as in that rookie campaign. Even if he had 400, that is a pretty big improvement for the role that I think he's going to be having. But it just goes to show you the level of disappointment as far as Tyler Bede. Now, Cornbread mentions he also thinks Jalil's going to cook too. I think the layer of this running back conversation, I think it's going to be interesting because I think there's a possibility they do keep 4. But given the nature of the fact that they do have what probably ventures to be 3 good running backs, right? Like 3 really good running backs might tell you that maybe they go with 3 and maybe they keep Nate Atkins or they keep Adam Prentice solely for that extra halfback, fullback kind of player, if you will, like where they can be able to use him in shotgun protection sets, and everything and stuff like that. So I think there's at least a world where they're actually keeping 3, and that 4th one will probably end up being on the practice squad. And I think something to remember here about Jalil, I don't think it's a guarantee he's on the roster week 1, because we have to remember that they also they chose not to tender him. But then they signed him to basically the exact same kind of deal, but just they chose not to tender him, which kind of feels like asking for a pay cut, which in essence means we don't necessarily want you, but we may want you for a much smaller portion, which we're talking about 1.4 million, and for the NFL's sake, that's not really a lot of money, which is obviously a lot of these contracts that the Broncos, handed out this offseason for some of these players. So when you look at the nature of those contracts, like a Tyler Bede, a Jaleel McLaughlin, I think it's safe to say that those guys are on the chopping block.
Yeah. And just to throw more gasoline on the fire take that I just had, last year with the running game that you described as being horrific, the Broncos just in total touchdowns on offense were tied for 11th in the league. So you add a better running game, Jalen Waddle, a healthy Bo Nix with one more year in this system.
That's a good take.
I don't think it's 5 more spots. It's crazy, but we're going to be the new Pats where you could never get a read on which running back was going to be.
I think that's because it's Sean Payton at the end of the day. We don't know what's in that head of his.
I mean, that's why I'm like fantasy. No one wants the Broncos running back room in fantasy. But the problem is you need to have it because it's going to be good, but you don't know who it's going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Jordan?
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, you really don't know who's going to be the guy on each game, which, again, I think can benefit from our standpoint. But, again, I think I would rather have this situation than the situation we had last year for sure. With the guys like Tyler Bede and Jaleel McLaughlin, like, of course, they're on the chopping block. But I think them being whoever it is, whoever the 4th guy is, because I think we can all agree that Dobbins, Harvey, and Coleman are going to be the top 3.
Right.
And whoever that 4th guy is going to be, I mean, it's not like he's going to be someone that is not experienced or something, because Tyler Bede and Jaleel McLaughlin has played, and they have gotten meaningful reps, which not a lot of 4th-string running backs can say in the NFL. So, which is also another positive going into that running back room.
And I was going to say, too, like, if you are betting on one of the 2 backs that's going to stay at that point, I probably would bet on Jaleel McLaughlin to be your 4th running back, that he would be your 4th. Because it seems like Tyler Bede, as we all know, right, his role and position on this team really kind of got soaked up for that Jonah Coleman draft position of the Samaj P. Ryan pass protection, and so I think if there is a 4th back, it's most definitely Jaleel, and I think it's not hard to read that. Continuing on the outside and just kind of working our way on the outside, it's the tight end room, and I think that aside from probably the uptick of what we're gonna see with the wide receiver room, which I probably think with their maybe we should talk, Bo, because I know Jordan could take a whole podcast talking about the wide receiver room.
Whoa.
So maybe we save the wide receiver position for last. But regarding the tight end position, you want to talk about a lot of when you talk about as far as the production, like the production of the room, that needs a lot of production, a lot of uptick in production. And I think I think the way that you and I, Brandon and Jordan, when we talked about this with the draft coming, when they added those two tight ends, there's a draft room of what we want to see, but there's also a tight end room of what we think we see. So I have to ask, what is the tight end room you want to see versus what's the tight end room you think we see? Brandon?
The problem is the bar is low. The bar can't get lower. So I think any way you cut it, it's going to be better. I think Evan Ingram had 1 touchdown last year.
Yeah. Was that the Eagles game?
I think they all had 1 touchdown. Ingram, Troutman, and Adkins. That's gross, dude. That's disgusting. I just want a tight end that can give us 450 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like,
let's just show you the low
how
bar.
Low my expectations are. Yeah. I think that would be probably the best tight end season we've had in the last 5 years.
Yeah,
and that's disgusting. That's actually disgusting. I would trade. I would do unrealistic things for the tight end in Arizona to come home to Colorado, but that's not happening. So I'll take my 450 and 4, and I will sigh that is 4 times the production that we got last year. But I will take it and run.
For me, I mean, the tight end room that I would like to see is Evan Ingram, Justin Jolly, Daniel Bentley, and then either Adam Troutman or Nate Atkins. And if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Nate Atkins just because he can also fit in a fullback spot just in case something happens to Adam Prentice, whether we keep him or not. But I don't see it with Adam Troutman. I understand he's Sean Payton's guy, and then he's also a locker room guy. So I am a big believer in the locker room guys. It's necessary for your culture. So I do believe Troutman is going to be on the roster, but I would like to see a more impacted role for like a rookie, like a Justin Jolly, because I do believe that he can be good in the league.
Yeah.
If it wasn't clear, the tight end room I want to see is Trey McBride, but that's not happening. So,
guys in the team right now.
Yes, Brandon.
No, it's probably going to be Bentley and some combination of Bentley, Jolie, and Ingram. I want more of the rookies. I want them to be involved early. I want them to.
I agree,
because they're going to be even what you're going to get out of the second half of the season from your rookie tight ends probably is better than what you're going to get from Evan Ingram at this point. Troutman, okay, he's going to be on the team because he's Sean Payton's adopted son, but I just please give it to Bentley and Jolie. Let them go through the learning curve that you get out of a tight end in the league in the rookie year, and just be sad of how horrible the tight end room was last year when they're going to already look like an improvement.
Now, someone that could throw a wrench into all this is Caleb Lohner, which there's been reports that he has improved.
He's injured right now, but he's improved.
Yeah, that he's improved significantly. He looks like a different, there's just so many positive reports coming out from Caleb Lohner, which is very unique because we usually don't get that from Sean Payton, and he went out of his way to say it. So if he has a great training camp, I do wonder if he's going to be a guy that you need to put on the 53-man roster, because you already came out publicly saying that this 6'7" athletic freak has been improving so much. So if you put him on the practice squad, he legit might get scooped up.
Right.
So
now, what I don't know about the logistics of that, I know they do get poached, but I wonder, is it still up to the discretion of the person, right? Like, is it still up to the discretion of the person? Because I know, and I think it's probably up to the discretion of the person, because if I'm not mistaken, Sam Ehlinger was on the practice squad this last year, right, in 25, and the Indianapolis Colts of all teams tried to recall him and bring him back, right? And he said no. So I think it's under the discretion of the person. So I guess Lohner theoretically could just say, no, man, the future is really good for me here. I'm just going to take another year to develop and redshirt and really kind of understand where things are, despite the fact that Sean, has just been complimenting, me nonstop this year. So I guess I do think we have to remind ourselves this is a very, very raw prospect, right? Like, very raw prospect with a very high ceiling, because those basketball tight ends can be very unique, dynamic weapons for a quarterback, and that's something you've seen in the NFL circles. So I think that for the Broncos, I think when you ask everybody, that's why I kind of ask a softball question of what's everybody's tight end room of what they want. I think you ask them that, everybody's tight end room pretty much is going to consist of Evan Ingram, Adam Troutman, Justin Jolie, and Dallin Bentley, right? Like, those are going to be your four. And so I think that when you look at it from the standpoint of if they add a fifth, that fifth probably is going to be that wrench of does he fall in love with Nate Atkins one more time, right? Does he fall in love with Lucas Kroll, the best player on his team, one more time? I think that where it gets to be a very, very interesting with the Atkins conversation is, well, he can play fullback and he's got tight end versatility. Well, if they did not bring Adam Prentice back, I think there's a much larger chance Nate Atkins is on this football team. But because they brought Adam Prentice back and he saw some rather significant snaps in the playoffs, and as the things were kind of winding down the season, I think probably would tell you they would lean a little bit more on Adam Prentice's side than Atkins at that fullback position. But I think there's a very real chance that the tight end room probably, if it does have five, you are probably talking about Caleb Lohner throwing that wrench in things.
Yep.
So
we'll see what happens, man. At this point, I'm expecting Caleb Lohner to be Rob Gronkowski.
The way that Sean talks about him.
Jordan, Jimmy Graham.
Jordan, I got to ask you, we haven't had this conversation a lot, but I think it's worth bringing up again in a sense of, a conversation, and this goes to when he was drafted. You're a basketball coach, right? Like, you're a basketball coach. When you look at it from the standpoint of Caleb Lohner and the basketball skill set and the skills that can translate to the NFL level, kind of take us through a little bit of what we can see from a basketball skill set for Caleb Lohner that might actually, get him those opportunities and might see some extra snaps, if you will, at the NFL level.
So I think back then, the first thing I had said was the thing you would notice immediately is his footwork and his fluidity when running, just routes or just running in general. Typically those big guys that play basketball, they can move a lot better than the guys that move in the NFL just because of, they're taught how to pivot correctly, they're always changing directions on the court, and it kind of just flows directly into what you would want into a tight end in terms of trying to create separation from defenders and route running and all that. So I think that would be the first thing is the footwork and how Caleb Lohner, who I believe is 6'7", and probably the way he moves at that size. So that would be number one. Number two, and probably the most obvious one when talking about basketball players going to football and especially playing tight end, is high pointing the football and contested catches. They have a great understanding of how to use their body, their big frame, and kind of boxing out, those little defenders, especially safeties or slot corners if they get matched up onto them or stuff like that. So they have a great understanding of how to use their body. So just those two things really jump out in terms of making that transition from football to or basketball to football.
Yeah. And I think from probably the logistics of the actual position and growing as a football player is something I think Sean talked about, which is you really got a chance to see his filled out frame a little bit more, which means that he can take on blockers more. He can be physical. He can use that basketball size to his advantage and, be that physical blocker. So I think that, I think there's a very real world where, maybe in his early sets of kind of in the growing pains of him as a player, maybe you use him in the extra goal line sets and he's your extra tight end blocker. And so maybe you're not necessarily using 73 is reported eligible. You don't necessarily need to use that as much, but maybe you can use, Caleb Lohner at sometimes. But I think that could probably throw a very fun wrinkle into it for another body. Now, going on to the outside, let's go to this wide receiver room. So a question was asked. We'll start with it first because, he led off with it and everything. But Franklin or Marvin Mims, who are you guys keeping this season? I think that, obviously Franklin, he's on contract past Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims is the one this is his last year of his deal. He's also Sean Payton's first ever draft pick. Now, I think people have put a lot of stock into that, more so than they probably should, as evidenced by his play time. That if he really cared about him all that much, he probably would see the field by year 3, or would have seen the field a little bit more by year 3. But the Marvin Mims discourse and the discussion of Marvin Mims is so fascinating to me, Brandon. And obviously we've had this conversation so many times, but when you think of clutch wide receivers on this team, there were a lot of times where, Courtland Sutton fell into the trap of being a body catcher, much like Troy Franklin at times last year. And, some of these wide receivers on the Broncos did fall in line of being a body catcher. But if you're looking at probably the two clutch wide receivers on that football team of 2025, it probably was Marvin Mims and Courtland Sutton that were your two top, clutch performers. There's an argument, too, to be made that Marvin might have been your most clutch wide receiver when that moment came. So it's a very interesting conversation because he's also such an elite all-pro special teams weapon. That it's kind of like finding that fine line. And I understand the Rashid Shaheed comparisons. I do. I understand them. But it's like you also have to, as a coaching staff, find a role for arguably one of your most clutch wide receivers, that you think you'd have on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem with this is he's such a good returner that, you almost have to keep him on the roster for that reason alone, because I don't want to go back to what I was used to experiencing in the return game before Marvin Mims was our returner, because it was kind of bleak. You can't – I think it's too easy to underrate what having a good returner and good field position can do.
And this
especially in a window where you're like, we can go to the Super Bowl, we can win the Super Bowl. You have to do everything you can to have as much success as you can in every area of the game, including special teams. And just for that reason alone, I think you need to keep Marvin Mims, not at the expense of, I'm not saying necessarily even at the expense of Troy Franklin. I don't know what the solution is there, but unless you're going to find a way to replace him in that area, you have to keep him. And like, I'm not saying that they probably do want to try to see like, what can Troy do in the return game? Can he be as good as Mims, right? But that's a pretty tall order. I just think, I don't know. It's hard because we haven't seen Mims used as much as you would assume he would have been to this point in his career in the offense. And that's going to get worse with Jalen Waddle.
Yes.
Like there's just less to go around, and there's more elite weapons that you need to get more touches to. I don't know. It's tough, but I think you also can't underrate what he does for you on special teams.
Yeah.
Because that's a mistake.
Specifically in this nature of NFL. Like that's the part too. Yeah. Like in this nature of the NFL and kickoff returning and punt returning, that is a big deal as far as the special teams. So now I think there's the discourse where I think it's rather accurate, Jordan, is I think you can kind of see Mims be a little bit more refined as a route runner and be a little bit more crisp at times, with his route running. And I think that the hands could probably be just a tad bit better, but I mean, no wide receiver is truly perfect, in terms of having some of the best hands. So, I mean, they're always going to be working on the jugs machine with their hands and everything. So I think that for Mims, he's just got to be able to just not let that distraction, bother him. And he's just got to be able to go out there and, perform and really kind of impress as far as in all those areas.
Yeah, the Marvin Mims discourse is so baffling to me. And I just don't understand how we're going on year 4 and we still don't know if he's going to have the role he is probably supposed to have now. I mean, his regular seasons, he is basically primarily just a returner. And then all of a sudden, the last 2 playoff runs we've had, he's been, or not even just playoff runs, I mean,
just runs,
big game runs where we need a play and he's there. So I don't know. It is truly confusing. I don't think anybody can really pinpoint it on one certain thing.
Yeah.
Again, hopefully, I don't know how it's going to play out with his contract. I know he just switched agents and all that. And I know everyone
that could tell us in of itself a change in agents and contract as well.
And listen, I understand from Marvin Mims' perspective, he is arguably the best returner in the league.
He is.
And just from a strict wide receiver perspective, he can point to all the big games the Broncos have played the last 2 years with Bo. He has always made a play. So he can point that out, and other teams do see that. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if he does not end up as a Bronco within the next, year or so. But it's just so frustrating because we know what he can do, and I don't even know if we can really. I don't want to say, but I don't know if we can really put 100% of the blame on him in terms of his inconsistent play as a wide receiver. Yeah, again, he's not perfect, but I think big time player, that saying, big time players make big time plays, and he just does, man. He just does.
Well, and whether it is even in the receiving game, he makes big plays in the special teams game. Like if they need a big play, and it happens to be a special teams, he'll make that play. The Kansas City game is no exception. Of this last year was no exception. They needed a big return, and he got it. And they got it from him. So I just think that the Broncos have to figure out what's the best way to use him. Is it that gadget role, which at times he's really good at that gadget role, to where it's like you kind of see a little bit of that Percy Harvin, not Deebo Samuel, but you kind of see that Percy Harvin at times, with him. But I think that when you kind of look at the landscape of this wide receiver room, it's so fascinating to me, because when you look at that room, I think I'm definitely expecting a little bit more of the tight end room. But of all the rooms that is on that offensive line, on the offense, that I'm actually expecting a bump from, it's the wide receiver room. And that's not necessarily a Marvin question, but it's the nature of the room. I'm expecting more, from that wide receiver room, and that is just by nature of, Jalen Waddle, being in there. So I hope everybody, people that are commenting, and, Jordan and Brandon, I hope you guys did your government issued Waddle, today. But I do hope that the Broncos do kind of take advantage of the fact that the wide receiver room will be better. And I will say, I brought it up when the Broncos hired Jim Leonhard, that they are not talking enough about the addition of Jim Leonhard being a defensive mind on that staff. I don't think a lot of people are talking enough about the addition of Ronald Curry to this wide receiver room. This is one of the massive times, I will say, of the year 3 in Sean Payton era, where he actually has one of his long-standing wide receiver coaches that he has had a lot of trust with, right? That he's had a lot of trust with. And one of the biggest things that Courtland Sutton fell into the trap with the last wide receiver coach was body catching. He's one of the best hands wide receivers in the NFL, and had dropped because of that, right? He did kind of drop a little bit. You saw the drop skyrocket a little bit at times for Courtland Sutton. Troy Franklin, as successful, and I think the key word is successful, of his second year as he did have, and it was successful, you did kind of see some drops here and there for him. Marvin Mims, we don't know necessarily what's going to do, but it, contrary to probably Jordan's opinion, but it does seem like the Broncos have fallen in love a little bit with Pat Bryant and like what he offers. And so I think they really do want to feature at times him a little bit too. So I'm very curious to see about this wide receiver room, where I think there's a window for you to have two 1,000-yard receivers. But I think there's at least a very confidence of all of us, we will have a 1,000-yard receiver in Jalen Waddle.
Yeah. I believe that Jalen Waddle will get 1,000. I mean, he nearly got 1,000 last year with the Dolphins, and that season was pretty pitiful for the Dolphins last year. So I'm pretty confident in Waddle's ability this year in his first year with Bo. And it might take a week or two to get that connection, really firm. But at the end of the day, I still believe with his ability and the way Sean Payton is going to design plays for him and the way Webb is going to call plays, I do believe it's a big year for Waddle coming up in Denver. So, it's still kind of surreal that, he's a Bronco. So I just can't wait to see him catch footballs from Bo this year.
Brandon.
Couldn't agree more.
I mean, but is there anything else you would like to add though?
No, the number one thing to me was the running back room that we already kind of discussed, and really the offense as a whole. I just think you're going to see so much of a step from every aspect of this offense. I think you're going to see a better running game. I think having Jalen Waddle is going to be just a massive improvement in every way, shape, and form. I think Courtland Sutton also not being forced to be the one is going to also be, I think, good for him. I think you're going to see almost not. I don't think you're going to see more, but I think it might feel a little bit more impactful. And then just Jalen Waddle, I'm just so hyped. I'm just so hyped to see Jalen Waddle.
And I understand everyone has their fascination with Pat Bryant, and I'm labeled as the Pat Bryant hater, and I don't want to do this because I hate when people do it, and it's kind of one of my biggest pet peeves. But
I only do it just to be an annoyance for Jordan, but
yeah, but like I will say, and again, I don't like it when people do it, but I'm kind of gonna do it. Like when people ask me, and I think we did an episode on it, and I'm gonna try to find it out. When people ask me, "Oh, what's your prediction for Pat his rookie year?" Everybody was saying that he was just gonna go off. I was kind of spot on with Pat Bryant his rookie year, even though I was still getting killed for it and stuff. But I was like, listen, he's a rookie. He's not gonna do much. Now, his second year is gonna be interesting. I know a lot of people again are expecting him to take off and be the next.
Depends on the definition of take off. That's the.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has their own definition of that. I mean, some people really think he is going to be a stud, and others realistically believe that he will just be a good contributor, which is what I just hope he is, a good contributor. But his second year will be interesting just because with his injury or health, it's not even injury because it's health-related stuff with Pat, and then also with the addition of Waddle, I do wonder the snaps with Pat Bryant versus Troy and or Marvin Mims, because maybe Marvin Mims is still in the doghouse, but I do wonder how that's going to balance out. I don't see Pat Bryant taking Cortland's reps. I don't. At least not all of it. Maybe a few here and there, but not all of it. I just wonder how he's going to progress. Because I will say, if we kept the same wide receiver room from last year, then I will say, yeah, I think Pat will take a bigger jump just because he's going to be forced into a bigger role. Now with Waddle, I know Waddle can help him in certain areas, but still, I don't know necessarily how big of an impact he truly is going to have in terms of everyone else's expectations of Pat.
Yeah. Well, and I think that when it's kind of the nature of the team. When you have when you kind of have your best positions are your swing tackles, your cornerback threes, and everything. I mean, it's gonna be very interesting to kind of to see in a sense like you're a good football team at that point. And I think for the Broncos' sake, when it comes to the wide receiver room, is the question isn't so much who will solidify themselves as wide receiver 3. That's my point is the Broncos will not have a solidified wide receiver 3. Their wide receiver 3 will be a certain week. A certain week Marvin Mims, a certain week Pat Bryant, a certain week Troy Franklin. So I think that it's just going to be alternating kind of week to week based on the matchup. I think people will have their opinion potentially about like who's your wide receiver 3. But I think your wide receiver 3 is going to end up being an amalgamation of all those 3.
Yep.
Let's get to the quarterback. Let's get to that the quarterback, which is number 10 and number 1 in all of our hearts.
Let's go Broncos! God bless Bo Nix!
Bo Nix! The expectations for the dark horse MVP candidate. Obviously, for anybody that does not know and has been living under a rock for the last, 2 or 3 months or so, Bo Nix will be fine. His ankle is fine. Sean expects him to be full go, and frankly, I would have ventured to guess due to the fact he canceled practice of that mini camp, I would have expected him to probably ramp up Bo had they practiced on that day that he canceled. So he is going to be ready, for training camp. I still venture to guess they'll kind of take him a little bit slow just by nature of him kind of recovering, but he's going to be having some full go practices there in training camp. So Brandon, let's send it off to you on what are your expectations for number 10?
Well, especially the fact that he's now going to have a legitimate option at wide receiver, number 1 wide receiver. Not that Cortland Sutton isn't a legitimate option wide receiver, but I think just having your go-to person that's like, your number one weapon in the passing game is going to be huge for him. Obviously, going into yet another season of his career and being able to kind of compound on being in the playoffs last 2 years, straight up outdueling Josh Allen, and like all the experiences that he had in his rookie year up to this point. Like I think you adding an elite weapon on top of that, and it just like the sky is the limit for me. And if we have to take things a little bit slower in the beginning to make sure that he's good physically, like I'm not even mad about that, because I do think that his ability to be a just game changer for this team, for this offense, and really for going into what could potentially be a Super Bowl window is
not potentially, it is.
Right? I mean, I would be hesitant to say that I think the expectation is like he's an MVP. I don't think I'm going to say that. I'm not saying I don't believe that it's possible, but I'm not going to say that I think that's the expectation, because
that's why dark horse is probably this way.
Dark horse, I think, is a good way to put it. I would say you're going to get a quarterback that's going to throw for over 4,000 yards.
Let's go.
Over 35 touchdowns.
4,000 yards.
4,035 is
I wanted to hear
my expectation. That's at least probably maybe 4,200. I don't know. 4,000 for sure. I'm pushing it with 4,200, but we'll say 4,000 and
4,050.
35.
Yeah. Jordan.
I'm actually might surprise people. I think he's probably going to be closer to 4,500 than he is 4,000. So, and I was
wow. I was throwing in the extra game too. Talk us through it.
So he nearly almost got 4,000 last year, and the wide receiver room we had was not great with all the drop passes they were having, and the tight end room not contributing whatsoever. And even some of the halfback swing passes that we had, where Tyler Bidet would just drop the ball and he had
just Ingram at times,
open green grass in front of him. I mean, I think all of that changes this year. I think Waddle, of course, obviously is going to change that. I think everyone getting pegged down in order in the wide receiver room, like for example, Sutton now being a number 2, Franklin being a 3, like all those guys, I think it's just going to help even more with depth reasons. I think the tight end room is going to contribute a lot more. But I think the biggest reason for this is Davis Webb.
Mm-hmm.
And it is no knock on Sean Payton, and let me make that clear. It is not. But with that being said, Davis Webb will be getting the calls in on time.
Yep.
And he does have that relationship with Bo where he is going to feel comfortable with every single play. He's going to get it on time. He can dissect the defense even earlier in the play clock. And you are just going to see a different type of Bo in the pocket and just processing wise, even though he is a good processor for a quarterback, but you're just going to see a difference, at least in my expectation that you are. And I believe that it's going to make a big difference. And if the Broncos truly do have a good running game, it's going to open up the passing game even more. So I do believe he'll be 4,500 than he is 4,000.
See, it's funny. The reason that I dialed it back a little bit and I was sticking with my 4,000 is because of the running game, because I think you're going to be able to rely on the run more than we were able to last year, where, the pass is the extension of the run, right? But I don't think you're going to have to do that as much, hopefully. And I think he's going to have fewer passing attempts. So that's why I was sticking with 4,000, but go off.
But here's the question. I'll say he will throw for 400, or sorry, I say he will throw for over 4,000 yards, but I think there's a very real chance he has 4,500 total yards. And I think
that's fair.
And so I think that's a pretty good expectation if he has 4,500 total yards with somewhere around 35 to 40 touchdowns, that will put him in the MVP category, which he was in that MVP category again, was not invited to the NFL honors, but he was in that NFL MVP category as the season was winding down, because you saw the important games line up and you saw the rise of how Bo played in those significant games down the stretch. And so I think there is a chance that you do see Bo really kind of take that next step, here. And, I think where it can really hit the ground running is everything that we are asking for not just Sean Payton, for the Broncos, but Bo Nix especially. He's got to get off to a hot start. That's probably numero uno when it comes to the biggest thing for me is he's got to get off to a hot start. If he gets off to a hot start and he plays relatively well, and you are at that 4-2 clip, maybe even 5-1 by just so happenstance, I think you are going to be sitting in a really good situation where, because sometimes, it is not about how you start, it's how you finish. But I think for the MVP voters, sometimes it's also how you start. And if you start out at a relatively high clip and you're going 5-1 in that stretch, or still you're 4-2 or whatever, but you performed and you stat padded to a certain degree, I guess, and put up a lot of numbers, that's going to matter for the MVP voters. And I think to the Davis Webb thing, one of the very confident reasons why I'm thinking that he'll have 4,000 yards passing is just the nature of something that we've all kind of had the conversation before, is that, like, obviously we don't know the answer of what we're going to expect from Davis Webb. But what I'm thinking, and I'm not ruling out, is the possibility that this is Davis Webb we're talking about. He comes from the Texas Tech Mike Leach air raid system. And if there's something that we know that's in the Sean Payton DNA just a little bit, when there's not really been, say, an elite running game, it's that his extensions of the running game are pass attempts to the running backs. So I think that there is at least not a large percentage, but I think there is a percentage that's there, that he could hit 5,000 passing yards. That he could hit 5,000 passing yards just by nature of the fact, if it all goes to the point, I don't think he will, but I'm just saying, like, if he gets to the point of, what Davis Webb is all accustomed to, which is that air raid and everything that we're accustomed to seeing, I think it's at all, or at least come very close to it, right? Like, at least hit, 4,700 yards, 4,800 yards, at least get close to it. Now, obviously, there's layers to it, and that's something that we've seen the last couple of years with Bo, and that has been a failed running game has resulted in leading to, or being in the top 5 of pass attempts in the NFL, right? But also, too, like, I'm trying to look at trends, right? Brandon and Jordan, like, I'm looking at trends, and it's like the trends are telling you he's been in the top 5 of passing attempts the last couple years.
But he also had to be.
But it's just like I don't know. It's because it's one of those things, like, if he's leading the top 5 in passing attempts, again, and we've seen it the last 2 years, is that surprising?
No, the biggest reason I say that is, like, just for the sake of not putting it all on him, I don't want him to have to do that. Like, this needs to be a more balanced offense if we want to have any kind of consistency and success, because you also look at how we won a lot of those games last year. Like, as much as I enjoyed the fourth quarter comebacks and as fun as those were, that's not a sustainable model that you can use every season. It's just not. It's not going to work out that way. And so I think dialing it back a little bit is going to be big. But I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm still all in on Bo this year. I think, honestly, it wouldn't even surprise me if we have 2 1,000-yard receivers. If Waddle and Sutton both have 1,000 yards, wouldn't even be that shocked. So I'm all for it. But I would like to see less need to pass because the running game is actually contributing. That's my biggest thing. And it's just because I don't want to be one-sided.
No, yeah. And I'm just kind of looking at a big picture there. I'm not actually predicting that he will throw for 5,000. It's the nature of the world. And we're like, well, that's not all that surprising.
Totally.
You know,
I'm mostly just playing devil's advocate.
Okay, no, yeah, for sure. So speaking of wide receiver, I think also Jalen Waddle has 100 passes that he catches. And it'll be one of the very few times in Broncos history where a wide receiver will have 100 passes that are caught. And also a fun little note, if Courtland Sutton does have over 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons, or at least close to, he will be the third wide receiver in receiving yards all time in Broncos history. So kind of a nature of one of the most disrespected wide receivers of Broncos history, continues to get hated on, and still up there in the number 3 all time in Broncos receiving yards. I'm sensing a thing.
That's insane.
I think he's got to get 2,100. I think that's what the number was, is 2,100, and he's he's third, if you will, in terms of Broncos receiving yards. It's wild. Moving forward to the defense, I think what we'll do is we'll push the conversation to next week as far as all-time teams. How does it rank next year? As far as this, because we're running a bit, and the offense is the biggest question mark, if you will, of all of it. So, and that was obviously taking up a fair amount of our show. So, as far as the defense is concerned, let's start with those trenches. Keep the theme. Everybody is going to talk about it. And I don't think they're wrong. I don't think they're wrong, guys. John Franklin Myers was definitely – he's going to be a miss. But it's not a miss relative to there's still going to be a really good defensive line unit because they have one of the top 5 best players on their entire roster as a member of their defensive line in Zach Allen, who is still probably one of the most underappreciated players in the National Football League, who probably will be voted in like the 80s of like the top players in the NFL 100, or whatever. But he is underappreciated when it comes to the NFL and his defensive line. So the defensive line, we'll start from there. We'll put the pass rushers in there as well. So like Nick Bonito, Q Robinson, Jonah Ellis, and of course, that as well.
The John Franklin Myers loss to me is going to be pretty big and telling, and I think I'm most interested to see what Q Robinson does, and that's going to be another guy. We talked about how much like Caleb Loader has gotten praise this offseason. I do think we'd be remiss to not mention what Q Robinson has been. The praise that Q Robinson has been getting as well, and I think the exact quote looks like he's ready to take advantage of every opportunity that he has in front of him and do whatever he can to make an impact. So I'm excited to see what that translates to. I think he looked pretty interesting the few times we had him on the field last year. But I think just we're going to have the whole line take a step up. John Franklin Myers, like, you can't keep everybody, but I do think that was a pretty significant loss, unfortunately, and we'll see what happens. I do think the defense has the ability to, like, I'm not saying that's like backbreaking by any means, and we have the ability to move past that, but I do think that is going to put more strain on the rest of the line, specifically on Zach Allen, and I think he can take it. Like, he is an incredible player, but that is the one thing that does just concern me a little bit, is you're needing to rely more on younger, less developed people and put more strain on the remaining proven veterans that you do have. So I do think it's going to be a great defensive line. I don't know if it's going to be quite as good as last year, and we won't even get into the rest of the situation with the pass rushers, but there definitely could be some changes happening there that
Could be.
you would see a little bit of a dip as well, and some more reliance on some young guys. So
Still really good.
I think there's a
but
little
yeah,
bit more of some question marks than you would maybe expect.
like it's still really good. Like the edge.
It's still really good, but there's more question marks.
Yeah. Jordan?
In terms of the trenches, I mean, I won't comment on the Jonathan Cooper situation. I still want it to play it out and see what happens there. But
It's not looking good.
in terms of as a unit, I know their goal. Someone talked about it. I don't know who talked about it. It's not coming up to my mind right now, but they want to break the record, the team sack record for in a season, and they were close to it last year. They didn't quite get it, and if I'm being honest, yeah, it is going to be tougher this year because I think everybody now fully understands that this unit is going to be, insane week in and week out. But I do believe that they will have a real shot again at getting it this year. I know. And the reason why I'm saying that they have a better chance of this year than probably they did last year is because last year it was a lot of comeback victories. Bo Nix had to put on his cape, had to come back in the fourth quarter. So that, the defense in the fourth quarter really just defending against the run, trying to get stops to get the ball back to Bo. This year might be a bit different in terms of us getting a lead early in the game, maybe going into the fourth quarter, and they have a lot more opportunities to rush the passer and get more opportunities to sack. So, I think that's going to play a big dividends, and it would not surprise me one bit that this unit breaks that record.
Yeah, it's a weird conversation because you're replacing a starter to a degree. But I think it's the same conversation we had about the wide receiver room, which is like what I'm about to say is like the wide receiver 3 position for me is going to be match dependent, right? Like it's going to be Mims, it's going to be Bryant, it'll be Troy Franklin at some times, right? Like, but as far as John Franklin Myers, I don't think it's going to be one guy. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't think it's going to be one guy. What they'll probably do, and we won't really have a good indication of this until probably training camp, when we're physically there, fans are there, media people are there. I think we'll actually get an idea of like who's actually going to be getting the first snaps. And is it going to be one where it's alternating? But I think that if you're probably a betting man, Wama Wazirike is my bet to be to be the player that's going to be probably taking that step just a little bit. Funny intended. I said bet.
Yeah. See what you did there.
Yeah. So I pulled a Brendan Sorsby. But as far as some of those players, I think it's going to be on Yadam at times. I think it's going to be a Wazirike. I think they'll probably see what they have in Savion Jones. I think it's one of those. I think Savion Jones is definitely on the roster, right? Like I think Savion is on the roster, but it's going to be a big year for him. Like can he take that next step in a line of they lost John Franklin Myers, so can they take that step up and really be a significant player on that D line? Knowing the fact that he's kind of forgotten about, but one of the people that was name dropped without being name dropped or asked, if you will, was Matt Henningsen, a player that all of us kind of forgot a little bit about, over here in minicamp. So I think by nature they're still a relatively good defensive line unit. And then when the pass rush, just when we thought Jonah Ellis was going to be moving to inside linebacker, outside linebacker, Sean Payton pulled a Lee Corso and said, "Not so fast, my friend." And and decided to kind of keep him outside, which should tell you, this is why it leads us to the other conversation of this, Brandon and Jordan. It tells you how good Jonah Ellis is as a pass rusher, how good that edge rush unit really is, and 2, leads us to our next depth position, that linebacker position, and probably how good guys like Taurine York and Red Daredevil Murdoch has really impressed this football team early so far.
That's huge for sure. Like, I do think that Jonah Ellis is going to need to come in and make a difference as a pass rusher. I think he's looked really good in the opportunities he has had, and I think he's earned the right to get more of those opportunities, and especially with, again, some of those more question marks on what you can expect from the pass rushing ferocity of this defense compared to what you might have had last year. And I still think it's really good. And I do think it's still like possible that they could break that record like Jordan was talking about. But there are some things that are going to be potentially a little bit different. There are some things that are definitely different. And then I don't want to comment on Jonathan Cooper, but I do think that you're going to need Ellis to come in and step in and make a bigger impact. And I think he absolutely is capable of doing that. I think that, to me, is why you saw that potential switch to linebacker die down a little bit as well. Like, other than the fact that Red Murdoch and Taurine York came in and maybe impressed a little bit there, which I certainly hope so, because we definitely need some more assistance and talent at linebacker.
Yeah.
But I do think that Jonah Ellis is going to show out this year. Like, he's going to make an impact, and he's going to show that he just deserves to get more time, and, next man up. And I think the next man up is Jonah Ellis.
But I think that in an indirect way, it also shows you the impact that was in that other position, which is the linebacker position. Now, how to word this, how to phrase this. We're talking about it in a season where everybody talks everybody up, right? Like, everybody talks everybody up. Where I think it gets to be interesting, and I made the point on 5280, is it a consistent thing and a consistent theme from when you had rookie minicamp or OTAs minicamp and into training camp and then into the regular season, and they're performing and everything? Because the player that comes to mind is Troy Franklin. Yeah, he did have those drops, but there was a consistent theme, right, guys? There was a consistent theme starting from OTAs and minicamp and everything into training camp and into the games and into preseason, where you were always hearing that Troy Franklin seemed like a different animal in year 2. And he goes out and he has one of the largest target shares of wide receivers next to JSN. Obviously the hands and everything were a bit of a problem, but he had a really good year 2. So when you kind of talk about this stuff when it comes to the linebacker position, Red Murdoch, Taurine York are generating a lot of buzz right now from that linebacker spot, to where I think it's easy to sell ourselves that there's depth right now. And if you talk about it in the moment, there's depth right now at linebacker, and it's because of Red Murdoch and the emergence of Taurine York. You just need to see it over time as we kind of creep closer to training camp. But guys, like the linebacker news you're hearing with both those two is phenomenal.
Well, I mean, we want to talk about player expectations. I'll say now, I expect Red Murdoch or York to start.
Start? Yeah. Like taking number 49's number, like taking 40's number.
49's number.
You're drinking the Kool-Aid, if you will.
I am. I really am.
Whew. Okay, so Mark, people that are watching the show,
just
Mark
to point out,
down.
Jordan said that he's there. One of them is going to take Alex Singleton's spot.
Correct.
But beloved Alex Singleton.
But you're thinking it's Red Murdoch, though.
I think it's going to be Red Murdoch more than York.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Brandon?
I agree. If it's one of them, it's Murdoch.
But
Like, will we be surprised by like week 5 he's starting over Singleton?
I mean, injuries.
I would be
do kinda happen.
surprised.
No injuries. No injuries involved. Just straight performance.
No. Well, probably actually. I probably would be surprised.
I would be surprised, but I wouldn't. I would be happy. I'd be surprised and happy.
Surprised and happy.
I will say this: my player expectation, because like I have a different expectation for Red Murdoch. I think he has 300 snaps.
That's
I think.
quite a lot.
Well, you have to put special teams in there.
That's true.
Um,
Oh, what am I saying? I think he's gonna start.
I was gonna say if he's starting, he's
Yeah.
having a little bit more than 300. You know, but I mean, if he can have around 300 snaps, you know, I will say it this way: he has 300 snaps, but he takes over that starting role at the very end of the season, around weeks 15 to 18.
I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just throwing it out there for it to come into fruition, but I do believe that everyone is high on Murdoch.
No, everybody's high on New York too.
Yeah. So
What's your thoughts on this linebacker room, though, Brandon?
The biggest reason I think it's going to be Murdoch over York is unfortunately just there's a little bit of a
Youth
physical limitation.
and youth. He's
Youth, but to me, it's more of a physical limitation. He's smaller. I'm not saying
it's a weird.
he's
He's
built. He's built, but
he's short for a linebacker.
He's short for a linebacker.
Yeah.
I think he's a great player. I think he has great depth. But I think when you look at the biggest thing to me is like what can Red Murdoch do in coverage? That's what I want to know, because you know that he's a tackling machine, which in that instance, he is literally the heir apparent to Alex Singleton, because Alex Singleton was a tackling machine and you don't know what he's going to do in coverage. But if you get younger there, like it's hard for it to be worse in coverage. And I'm not even saying that to bash Alex Singleton. Like I think he did sort of decent sometimes, but he's also like 33. So by virtue of age alone, I do think he's going to be an improvement there. But he just wants to hit people. He being Red Murdoch. He's the linebacker Steve Atwater in that sense.
Yeah.
And I mean that as a full compliment in every way possible. And I do think that
so instead of smiling,
he's going to make an impact. Now, I don't know if I'm on the Jordan train if he's going to start yet, but I am excited for Red Murdoch, and I think he's definitely going to make an impact. I think he's going to blow people up in special teams, and I think it's going to be fun to watch. I think he's going to.
I didn't think of that.
Be some good depth, and he's going to get snaps at linebacker, and I think he's going to just continue to improve and prove that he maybe should get more snaps and maybe be a starter down the line. Like I'm super excited for Red Murdoch. I don't know if it's going to happen this year. I don't know if it's going to happen by week 5, like Jordan's saying, but if it does, I mean, again, I would be surprised and happy, because I think he could be an incredibly relevant Mr. Irrelevant. Like he is just kind of a monster at linebacker. And I want to see more of him in coverage, but I think the Broncos got a good one with the last pick of the draft. I mean, you can't really do better than Red Murdoch at a position of need. And Dallin Bentley too, I'm excited about. But I do think Red Murdoch is also in the perfect position where like he can step in and make an impact as a rookie, because again, the linebacker unit is just not where it probably should be, and there's opportunity to be had.
Yeah. Getting to the secondary as we round it all out. I figure we just put the secondary all in one, corners and safeties. I do expect, if there's one thing, and I think it was also probably an emphasis in wanting to go out and get Red Murdoch. But I venture to guess the Broncos will be I don't know if they'll be in the top. Actually, I will say this. They'll be in the top 5 of turnover differential as a defense, where they will be forcing fumbles, getting interceptions, and cashing in. Because it just feels like you can't really have a full season like that for it to not kind of take into, some account where that kind of translates the next year and you see some more of that improvement. So I do think you see some fair improvement when it comes to that turnover differential and causing turnovers and everything. So I think they'll be in the top 5. And I will say that Hufanga will have 3 interceptions this year. As far as that safety room. And Brandon Jones will have 3 interceptions on the year. Both starting safeties will have 3 apiece when it comes to the interceptions. And also Brandon Jones will be extended as well. So I have to venture to guess that that's going to be a little bit up there as far as priorities for them.
I love it. I mean, by all accounts, it seems like Brandon Jones has fully recovered from that pec strain tear that he had last year, which is great because when he went down like that sucked. Like I'm hyped to see Brandon Jones back out there. I love Hufanga, and I think Hufanga is just an absolute monster, and he just continues to prove it. But I think Brandon Jones is like underrated in how good he is, and I'm excited to have him back and healthy. In terms of the rest of the secondary, I'm really excited to see what we get from Chris Abrams-Drain this year, specifically. The forgotten one. And just what is the plan for Jahdae Barron? Please let there be a plan. There has to be a plan.
Yeah, well, and I think that we had a really good conversation about this too, Jordan and Brandon, because it's like the Barron stuff, I understand the gripes about it. I understand the gripes about him and the draft slot that he was and the expectation that wasn't necessarily the best, but I have to still venture to guess down the line, Jordan, to your thoughts on this is he'll probably be a little bit of a versatile piece, a more versatile piece down the line as of right now. I think where it gets to be dicey is if a move off of Moss happens before week 1. If it happens before week 1, well, then you are talking about a situation where, okay, is it Jahdae Barron on the boundary, or is it going to be Jaquan McMillan? Now, I'm not ruling out the possibility of McMillan having some snaps out there on the boundary. I'm not, because that's exactly what happened to Chris Harris Jr. He earned every single right for how good he was in the nickel to play the boundary, and he was good for a couple of years, and then it kind of tailed off there the last couple of years when, I think his last team was the Chargers. But he still earned every right to be that boundary corner. And Bryce Callahan was the same way. He was a very good nickel corner and earned every right to be that boundary, player. Unfortunately, injuries kind of derailed his Bronco career there. But I'm very curious to Brandon's point of like what the plan for Barron is. Because I think the initial thing for how they probably would use him is that joker, we went about an hour and a half, a joker piece, if you will, for the defensive side of the ball and wanting to use him.
Yeah, the whole Jahdae Barron thing, it has to get resolved this offseason going into this season, because you can't have your first round pick sitting out another year where you have Super Bowl aspirations. You're gonna have to. I don't want to necessarily say you're gonna have to pick and choose one, either between Riley Moss or Jahdae Barron, but you're kind of have to, because
you might be forced to.
Yeah, because you spent a premium pick on Barron, and I understand it was best player available to them and this and that, but it's time to get a first round talent on the field and stuff. So training camp is going to be very interesting for Jahdae Barron, whether he's playing on the boundary, whether he's in the slot, whether he's trying out in safety. I mean, who knows? They rave about his versatility, but he's got to play this year.
Yeah. As far as the others in the room, what is the expectation for the defensive player of the year, Pat Surtain? What is the expectations for Riley Moss? Just say it there. Like, what are the expectations there for Riley Moss? Obviously, he is, between he and Alex Singleton, he is I don't want to piss off Bronco fans in a sense too soon when it comes to the offseason, Brandon, and Jordan, but I think Riley Moss is overhated a fair amount of times.
Yes.
But I also think he gets the necessary hate, right? When it is called upon on certain situations. So meaning the reason why he's paid what he could be paid by another team, which is $20 million a year, is because of how dang good he is for a cornerback too. Yeah. And I think people need to understand that. But I think it's also too where he still has an area of growth, a significant area of growth, Brandon, where he's got to cut down on the penalties, the pass interference penalties. Now I will say, at the midway point of the season, when he was starting to box like Rocky Balboa and doing those boxing gloves, you did kind of see the pass interference penalties start to be smaller and smaller as the season was progressing a little bit. So I think if that trend can continue, I think you will see a little bit more improvement there.
You have to. I mean, you have to see improvement there. Bottom line, I do think it got better later in the year, but you can't go back to the situation you were in. And to some extent, I would say it's almost expected that you're probably going to get some, just given the way that he plays the position, but also the fact that he's across the field from the defensive player of the year in Pat Surtain, who you're not going to throw to. You're going to throw it at Riley Moss every single time because you can't throw it anywhere else. And so when that happens, you're going to see those. Like, you're going to see the pass interference calls. You just need to see less of them. I do think he got better there. And if he takes a jump, he takes a step, and he is able to be the true complementary piece to a shutdown corner in Pat Surtain that can be like, okay, well, I don't want to throw it to Pat Surtain, but I also don't really want to throw it to Riley Moss. So what do I do? Like, that's ideal. Like, if you get that, man, that is, we're cooking with gas. But I do think, unfortunately, we're still kind of in that phase where
I feel like
he makes plays. Like, he makes really good plays. But until he makes you stop, he's in a situation where you're going to throw at him every time until he does something to force your hand and make you throw somewhere else. Yeah. So I am interested to see what happens with Moss and if he can continue to improve there. Pat Surtain is going to be Pat Surtain, potentially defensive player of the year again. He's going to be fantastic, but
I don't mean to.
Everywhere else is really where I'm looking, which is the same with the opposing quarterback.
I got to ask the question because, this is nitpicking, and and obviously the Broncos. Shout out the Broncos social media team. They tweeted about the 10 interception year that Champ Bailey had in 2005. Should have won Defensive Player of the Year that year, and he didn't. But I ask it this way. We're nitpicking this, but does it bother you that Pat Surtain does not have 3, 4, 5 interceptions at times a season?
Not really.
No, not really, because it's kind of like this new age baseball thing where homers back then were the big thing with slugging and all that. And now it's OPS and just getting on base and stuff like that. That's how it is right now with the corners.
It's a really good comparison, actually.
Surtain's effectiveness, he literally, and you can't say this about any other corner, he literally shuts down one guy by himself to 10 yards, 20 yards on 5 catches. It's quite remarkable. And talk about expectations, just because of our schedule and the type of wide receivers he's going to be covering. And maybe this is an unfair expectation, even though he's already done it. But
Oh no.
I expect PS2 to be a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year winner.
So let's look this up here. All right. Okay, so let me look this up here. Defensive Player of the Year, NFL. Okay, so let me look at this. I'll just start from the very bottom. Okay, so you had Surtain, Charles Woodson, Deion Sanders. So Rod Woodson, if he wins, if Pat Surtain wins a second Defensive Player of the Year, he'll be the first. See, we're getting balloons. If he wins Defensive Player of the Year, he will have accomplished something and no corner has ever had, which is a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year award. And I think at that point, the conversations of Champ Bailey and Pat Surtain will have officially ended there.
Yeah.
Meaning Surtain will be the best corner in Broncos history.
Yeah. I mean, just with the guys he's going to line up across this year, I mean, it'll be a tall task, but he's done it before.
But he will be, I will say this, he will be the first he'll be the first corner to do it, but he will be the second player. Reggie White did it twice. Lawrence Taylor did it twice. But he will be the last time it was ever done was Aaron Donald, as far as winning it twice. So, who might actually end up going back to the Rams, by the way. On another note. So, other than that, you guys have any other questions or any comments that you guys wanted to kind of chime in about the expectations of the team?
That's kind of it for me. Just PS2 depoy season.
It's a little bit of a spicy one. Brandon, you got something?
Nope, dude. I'm ready. I'm ready. We're 3 months out.
Yeah. Well,
My body's ready.
It's also relative because like we're in the dead part of the season. I'm ready.
Dude,
I am ready.
Dead.
Yeah, I am ready for training camp news. I am ready for something. And so obviously we plan to do another topic tonight. We ran a little bit long. So that means we will do a show next week. We will do a show next week, next Thursday we'll try 7 or 7:30. That time slot seems to be a really favorable one for us. So it'll be either at 7 or 7:30. And it will be, how does the 2025 team compare with some of the great Bronco teams of old? Thank you guys to everybody that hopped into the chat with us. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to the MHRT Network page over there on the channel, as well as the Mainly Broncos YouTube channel. And as always, make sure you follow the boys. Follow Brandon. He is the GOAT over there on his handle at Brandon Miller PO. Follow Jordan at Jordan T. Lopez. And follow my at Jordan T. Lopez, and follow myself at Cameron Parker PO. And so with that, we'll see you guys next week for another episode of the Mainly Broncos podcast.
The mocks that you guys read for the last month, what do you want me to say? It's embarrassing.
Let's go Broncos! God bless Bo Nix!
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flight miles. So high,